Welcome to Nifty Notions from So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and have you ever used a folding pen? The fabric folding pen is not a pen in so much as there is an ink that's coming out of here that you're going to be able to draw on. But you have a solution that comes out of this end. The solution is in this little tube, and you're going to open up the bottom of that pen, and this is hollow. And drop 4 or 5 drops into the end of that cylinder. Then you're going to be able to fill the rest up with water. When you put the end on, the solution is going to come through this little tip on the end. You can just squeeze this a little bit to force that solution into the end. If you squeeze it too much, you can actually get big drops, but you're only wanting a nice fine line. And the solution that comes out of the end and gets put on the fabric makes a folding line. If I want to fold up this fabric for a hem, I'm going to be able to do it with the pencil and no heat. I want to make sure that I have some solution coming out of the end, and I can run that end right along my fabric. And you should see just a little wet line from the pencil end. That wet line becomes a fold line. You'll be able to just fold it and it stays folded. And it folds right on that line. So you can always use it for a single fold, but you can use it for a double fold. Just make sure some solution is coming out of the end, even if you need to just squeeze a little bit so it comes out of the end. Draw a line where you want that fabric to fold over. So there's my wet line. And the fabric is going to fold right on that line. And it stays. Now you're going to be able to take this to the machine and stitch it down, and you did not have to bring it to the iron. You can still iron it. It's not going to hurt it any. By using a ruler and the pen, what you're doing is you're marking that folding line, but it's not with any ink. It's with this liquid. So it's going to save you one step of folding this fabric over. It's great for applique too, because it will go to different shapes. If I want to have a curve, I'm going to do the shape that I want. And I can use a piece of template plastic, and wherever that solution goes, the fabric folds over very nicely. It works great on cotton. It also works great on flannel. The thicker the fabric, the more solution you're going to have to put on that folding line. But it's very easy to draw my double folding lines. I'm going to fold it once and it automatically folds right on that wet line, and twice, so I have both the hems done at the same time. And I've found a few other uses for the pen. It's great for getting some of those fabrics to lay flat, and denim is a good example. When you've taken the hem out of denim, those seams have been pressed very, very hard, and they're very hard to iron down. I've taken the hem and I've divided in two so I can show you the difference. If I take this hem and try to iron it down, even if I spray it with some water, it still has some little wrinkles on it. But I found if I use this pen and put some solution along those folds that I want to flatten out, it really helps flatten them out. The thicker the fabric, the more solution you're going to be able to need. And I'm just going to put the solution right over top of that previously ironed seam. From here, I can press it, and it is nice and flat, where this edge still has that little fold line. You can also do that same technique for quilting. As we're quilting, a lot of times we'll press those seams in the wrong direction. And they're very hard to press back into another direction, especially if we have steamed them and starched them. We can spray them with water, and then the whole thing is a little bit too wet, and it still doesn't necessarily go over. if I want to take the seam and press it in the other direction, I can use the solution from the pen. I can have it run along one side or the other, or I can just have it come right from the top. And I'm just going to take that pen and run it right along the seam that I want to go in the other direction. Now when I turn it over, I can smooth it with my hand, and already you can see just with my hand how well it goes over. And with a little heat, it's going to go over perfectly. And it keeps it laying nice and flat without stretching any of those seams. And from the other side, it lays nice and flat. Because this helps take out folds as well as put in folds, it's great for taking that pressed seam in the fabric. We have the fabric folded from selvage to selvage, and when you open the fabric up, you have a very firm pressed seam. Just because this has been sitting on the bolt for a long time, that seam is very hard to press out. The pen is going to work for this. Just squeeze that pen so a little solution comes out along that seam. Smooth it out with your hand and then press. And that is now nice and flat. So it's great for removing wrinkles and press marks. A few things to keep in mind: the thicker the fabric, the more solution you are going to have to put through, so it penetrates right to the back of the fabric. For something lightweight and cotton, all we need is a very thin line, so you don't need to squeeze a lot of solution out of this end. Just lay it down and just make that line. That nice thin line is all you're going to need to have that fabric fold over to the spot that you want. As with every new fabric, it's important to test a corner to make sure that none of the fabric will stain. It washes out, but if you don't want to wash, you want to make sure that it's not going to stain. So put it in the corner and just iron it until it's dry, which takes just a few seconds, and see if it leaves a mark. I have not found a fabric yet that it does leave a mark on, but it's always good to test it. You get a bottle of this solution, and with only needing 4 or 5 drops, it's going to last you a long time. When you're not using the pen, I would recommend you to store it upright. If you store it down, the solution is just going to want to stay in the end of this tip. So store it up, and it'll be ready to go next time. The fabric folding pen is by Clover, and I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. But a lot of quilt stores and sewing stars do carry it. So not only are they good for putting folds in your fabric, they're good for taking folds out of your fabric. If you have found another way to use the folding pen, I would love to hear about it. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.